Okay, so we're going to start off lying down. The other thing I'd suggest is so that I can give feedback and appropriate instruction, if you just tilt your screen so I can see your mat, if that's possible, that would be great. But if not, don't worry. Okay, so you're going to start off lying down. I might turn this light on actually. Lying down with your knees bent. Good, and then just another tip for you Zoomers. Because I don't demonstrate everything, if you have it on gallery view, you can see what other people are doing. That might be helpful. So with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor, take a deep breath in and sigh the breath out. Morning, Laura. Don't know if you've got your camera off on purpose. That's fine. I would love to see you, of course. So just take a couple of conscious breaths. So they don't have to be necessarily huge breaths, but you're consciously making an effort to feel the breath coming in, which parts of your body the breath is moving into. And as you breathe out, you're consciously moving back into the ground. So as you exhale, you're feeling the support of the floor move into you. And if you do that a few times, each time you breathe out, you're seeing if you can rest a little bit more fully. Check, that's all okay. And soften what you can across the forehead, around your eyes, cheeks, jaw. Even down into the throat, breastbone. So as we relax the body, we give the nervous system information that we're safe. And it doesn't have to be in a protective mode. And then I'd like you to place your hands, one on your chest, one on your belly. That's it. So you can have your hands off center so that your shoulders are comfortable. You might have very long monkey arms like me and be able to get your hands in the middle and rest your elbows. And just feel the comforting presence, soothing, supportive, heavy, resting. So the hands can feel the body, that the body can also rest, let go, feel supported. And notice what you feel underneath your hands, both in your chest cavity and your abdominal cavity. Morning, Helen. You're going to change your breath in any way? Good. And then bring both hands onto your abdomen, onto your belly. So I say lower belly, resting into the side ribs if possible. Both hands. And take all of your attention down there. And although you've got your hands on the front or slightly, you also have an awareness of the sides of the waist and the lower back as you're breathing. So You don't have to send the breath here, but you're keeping your attention here and just sensing that there is there as you breathe. On the lower belly. I'd like you to bring your hands a bit higher and onto your side ribs. So one way of doing this, but it depends on your shoulders, is to have your thumb around towards the back of your ribs maybe, and your fingers around the front, or you might be able to just rest your palm, the side ribs. If that's really uncomfortable for your shoulders, you can just fold your arms lightly. You've got your hands resting, that's it, but not too tight so that you're not really broadening the shoulders. Morning, Lucia. Or just sensing what you feel in your ribs as you're breathing. See if you feel any expansion as you breathe in, a widening, maybe even a dropping back into the floor. Try and stay heavy through the back of your body. Two more breaths here. And then bring your fingertips very high up on your front chest. In fact, can you find your collarbones, which are just below the neck? They're the big sticky outy bits, top of your chest. And then place your fingertips just in the dip below the collarbone. So this is the space between the collarbone and the first rib. And without dramatically changing your breath, see if you can, really step back from your breath. Just sense what you feel here. So we're not purposefully directing the breath, although that might unconsciously happen, but we're bringing awareness to all the possibility and availability for the breath. So our lungs, they start up here, but they also go all the way around to the top of your back. So even though you've got your fingers at the front, maybe you can have a sense of something at the back as well. And then bring your fingertips, you don't have to lift your head, it's just to the side. I'll turn around so you can see where I mean. Just to the sides of the back of your skull, there's a little sticky outy bit to either side. If you follow it through, it sort of then dips in the middle if you follow it round to the back. So just below those sticky outy bits of the skull, rest your fingers there. And if it's comfortable, you can have your elbows out to the side, or you might want to pull your elbows up towards the ceiling. So there's muscles involved in breathing that attach here to the skull. They go down through the shoulder, through to the ribs, clavicle. And just see if you can sense any change in length of your neck as you're breathing. Very subtle. And as you exhale, can you feel a sense of lengthening of the neck? Still heavy in the head, without you actually doing anything or adding anything. A couple more breaths here. And then come back to where we started, one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. And just sense if there's any difference now. Perhaps there's just more awareness of all the different parts of the body available for the breath. Great. And then fold your thighs in towards you and take hold of the back of your thighs. And if that's not comfortable for you, you could always use a belt or a scarf. So notice the difference between your thighs and your belly. That distance is going to stay the same, but you're going to start to open up. I didn't say straighten, so let go of that idea. You're going to start to open up the back of one knee and the back of the other, but you keep the thighs close in towards the belly. That's it. And just notice what you feel through the back of your leg, through the back of the buttock. So one leg at a time, like you're doing a sort of funny upside down squat walk. And if you've got long enough hamstrings and or long enough arms, you might be able to touch your toes with your fingers that will help keep the thigh close in towards the body. There's a very slow, gentle waking up of all the soft tissue down the back of the body. And you can do it with the ankle flexed. That's it. So the toes are sort of pointing towards the wall behind you. And then you see if you could do this if you're not holding your toes with your ankles floppy. So you're leading with your shin. Great. And then stop that, hug your knees. So you can either keep the hands where they are or hug around your knees. And just have a little roll from left to right. Let the head roll. That's it. How is your back meeting the floor this morning? Does the floor feel particularly hard or is it quite giving? So the floor doesn't change, its firmness, but our muscles in our body changes their firmness. So sometimes rolling on the floor can feel like you're rolling over rocks, and sometimes it can feel quite spongy and soft. And that's all to do with what's going on through the soft tissue of the body, unless you are, of course, rolling over rocks. That would be different. Okay, and then place your feet on the floor. Good. So in a moment, we're going to start to press the feet into the floor, but I don't want you to feel like there's a right or wrong place to have your feet. There's a right or wrong place for you at this moment, or not a right or wrong, a more helpful and less helpful place. So you're going to try and stay really heavy and soft through the whole body, including the belly. And in fact, let's do it with the breath to start with. So as you exhale, press through the feet so you feel the back of the waist move closer to the floor and the belly drop back. And as you inhale, lighten the contact of the feet on the floor to allow your lower back to arch away, so you roll more towards your tailbone. As you exhale, press the feet, roll more towards the sacrum. Inhale, lighten the contact of the feet on the floor. So your pelvis rocks towards you. If it was a bowl, it would be tilting towards you as you press the feet. And as you unpress, and this word unpress, you could go a little bit further with that. You could actually lighten the contact of the feet as if you want to pick them up. And that will mean that your front hip flexors will switch on, which will pull your lower back away from the floor. But your belly needs to stay soft and undone in order for you to feel this response. You can do this as big or as little as you want to. Pelvis stays on the floor for now. Good. Lovely. Could you also soften in your breastbone so that as your belly drops back, your breastbone also drops back? Great. So you can drop the synchronicity with the breathing and maybe stay with the feet pressed for an in-breath and an out-breath. And if you feel like this is a natural progression, When you press the feet, the back of the waist moves closer to the floor. You could continue pressing the feet, maybe start to pull the pelvis off the floor. So as the feet go down, the knees travel over the feet and the pelvis might start to be pulled off the floor. But what I want you to think about, rather than pushing the pelvis up, think about what's going down. Obviously you're pressing into the feet, but if the pelvis becomes lighter, other parts of your body will become heavier, and you need to really take advantage of that. So resting through different parts of your back ribs, shoulders, head, obviously. And if this feels like a step too far this morning, or you're still playing with that undulation of the pelvis, then by all means you can stay with that, keep the pelvis on the ground. So if you are peeling the pelvis and the spine and maybe the ribs off the floor, as you come back down, how incrementally can you place the spine and the back of the body back down? Good. The next time your pelvis comes back onto the ground, stop. And float your fingers now up towards the ceiling in front of you. Float's one of those words that's often used in yoga at things that just don't feel like floating, but hopefully lifting the arms can feel quite floaty there. With the arms above the shoulders. So the weight of the arms almost pins the shoulders to the floor, and you can play with that a little bit. If you reach towards the ceiling, really reach, lengthen the fingers, and then unreach and feel how heavy your shoulders can feel on the ground. How much can you rest your shoulders on the ground? You might even be able to play with this and make some changes of where you're resting, so that each time you place those shoulders back on the ground, maybe you find a little bit more ground with the shoulders. You keep the space between the earlobes and the top of the shoulders the same. So you're not lifting the shoulders up towards the ears, they're just going up towards the ceiling and then resting down. And you can notice the change in effort required in the shoulders, the change in contact with the floor, with the upper back. So those of you that are familiar with cat pose or cat-cow, this is that same movement of the shoulders. Freeing. Okay, great. And then bring your palms together. So your palms will be sort of in the middle above your breastbone. Hands straight. So you created a triangle. That's it. Hands straight. Elbows, do know my anatomy. Elbows straight, palms together. So there's, for what we're going to do next, there's a couple of rules that I'd like you to adhere to. One is that your hands stay stuck, they don't slide. And the other is that your elbows stay straight. And we put often in yoga practice or other body movement practices, we put restrictions in, limitations in order to access different parts of the body. So we're putting these restraints in so that we access the ribs and the upper back. And what we're going to do is start off really small. You're just going to take your hands slightly to the left and then slightly to the right. Now remember what I said about bending elbows and sliding hands. And you keep your pelvis and knees quiet. Pelvis and legs stay where they are. Keep breathing. That's it, lovely. I can see your head's rolling as well with your shoulder girdle. You go nice and slow and you continue to breathe. You'll be exploring different parts of your back ribs as they press into the floor, and you breathe in between the ribs. Great. Next time we come back to the middle, stop. Keep your arms up, but take your hands apart. Let your shoulders rest again. And then interlace your fingers and bring your hands onto the back of your head. You see me? Yeah, I think so. Okay, and then bring your elbows towards the ceiling. So towards each other. Okay. And then we're going to, so I've been talking, haven't I, a lot about keeping really soft and undone through the front of the body. For what we're going to do next, you'll need to switch between being soft and undone and being engaged there, because we're going to lift the head with the hands and then think about bringing the face towards the pubis and the pubis towards the face, and seeing if everything in between those 2 points can assist that movement. Don't think of it like a sit-up and then bring your head back down. So you're going to come into it and come out. Don't think of it like a sit-up. Instead, treat it as an exploration or an investigation as to, is everything there involved in this flexion, folding movement? Or am I doing it all in the upper back? What's going on in the lower back, the belly? What's going on in the chest area? So in order to be able to contract in the front, you need to be able to lengthen in the back. So it might be that you feel part of the back feels like it's still extending away from the floor. What's happening in the corresponding front part? Lifting and lowering. Really small. So you're not using your feet at the moment. If you're secretly using your feet and you don't know how to not do that, you could take your feet off the floor and fold your knees in towards you, and then you'll have to not use your feet. You'll have to find something else to tilt the pelvis towards you. Great. Okay, the next time you place your head down, you can stop. Hopefully you've got a sense of that movement and what's involved. Keep your hands behind your head. And then come back to this pressing of the feet to roll the pelvis off the floor. Okay? And just go as far as is comfortable for you. So your head, if you're wearing rings, you might want to take them off. So, because the head will be pressing a little bit more firmly into the hands. And then you're going to lift the head. And so think of yourself like a seesaw or a boat. Yeah, sort of a boat doing a seesaw action. So as you lift the head, the pelvis lowers a little bit, but you're still staying in this rounded position. And as you bring the head back down, the pelvis comes up a little bit. Yeah? So you're almost keeping the same distance between the head and the pelvis, but you're lifting and lowering the 2 of them. So as the head comes up, the pelvis goes down, stays off the floor, and what you'll feel in the back of your body is that you're rolling through one part of your spine. Do stop and rest whenever you need to. If you feel tired or if you notice you're not breathing, you can make this smaller, maybe not come up so far. Then see if you can change the part of the spine that you're rolling through now. So maybe you lift the head a bit more and you come lower down the spine, the pelvis comes closer to the floor. I'm assuming you're all clear with this. Looks good. You look very boaty. Yeah, so your pelvis is off the ground and you're rolling through a part of the spine. That's it. Pelvis, head comes up, pelvis lowers, head goes down, pelvis comes up. Great. And then leave that. Let the hands go. If you want to do something different with your legs for a moment, fold them in or lengthen them out, please do. And then just come back to just using the legs to lift the pelvis and roll through the back again, and see how that feels now after what you were just doing. Seeing you've got more access to different parts of the vertebra moving independently. Remember, you can change where you've got your feet, maybe take them further away or closer towards you to see if that helps you get more leverage or purchase as you press. Heavy in the head. Great. And then when you're ready, I want you to all roll over and come onto your hands and knees. Spread the hands. Look at the mat between your hands. And then keep looking at the same place. This is the same movement that you were doing when you were lying on your back, reaching towards the ceiling. But this time you're pressing into the floor. Feel the upper back lift towards the ceiling. Shoulders probably broaden. And then unpress, but keep unpressing. Keep the elbows straight and feel how the upper back can drop between the shoulder blades. Shoulder blades can gather towards each other and you create this sort of dip in the upper back. Try and keep the pelvis quiet. This is just the upper body that we're exploring. Looking at the same point, good. Okay, and then find a place that feels like the middle for you. So the middle between those two extremes, where you feel longest from the crown of the head to the tailbone and fairly flat through the back. Tuck your toes under. Try and keep this sense of length through the spine as you now send your bottom back towards your heels. Keep your hands firmly on the ground, elbows straight. Waking up the feet a little bit, folding through the base of the toe, big toe, come forwards, a couple of times. And then the next time you come forwards, walk your hands forwards, a hand's length. I should have said you probably need to be more towards the back of your mat. So if you're towards the front of your mat, you're running out of mat for your hands, then scoot yourselves back. And then do the same thing. Try and keep a sense of that length through the spine. So you'll have to change where you're looking. If you stay looking at the mat, or you could explore that actually, stay looking at the point on the mat that you're looking at when you're forwards, and you'll notice what happens. It's quite a nice thing actually in the upper back between the shoulders. And then try and keep the relationship of the chin to the chest the same. And then come forwards, and you're going to creep the hands forwards another hand's length, elbows straight. And you might, at this point, get somewhere where you can rest your forehead on the floor, but you're going to keep your hands firmly in contact with the ground, and your elbows stay off the ground. If the floor is far away, bring the floor to you using a cushion or cat. Like that. Breathing. So it could feel a little bit like dog pose through the body, apart from the legs. Great. And then release that lengthening and just come into a conventional child pose. So you can untuck the toes, come into a softer child. And good, you all know what child pose is, those that I can see. And do make sure you're resting the head on something. Again, if the floor is too far away, you can rest your head on your hands or a cushion or something. And sense the breath moving down the back of your body now, way down into the lower side ribs, back of the waist. Great. Come back onto all fours. Find that appropriate support again. So where you're not pushing the floor away, but you're not sort of collapsing in the shoulders towards the floor. You feel, quite broad across the shoulders, but quite flat through the back. Tuck your toes under again. And without pressing with the hands, drop your head now so your chin drops towards your chest. And see how much you can let your head hang without pressing with the arms. Just let the head hang. Maybe you could nod the head to see how much you've let it go. Mine isn't able to hang very much this morning. Not much nodding going on there. Do what you can to allow the neck to be lengthened by gravity, the weight of the head to be pulled down by gravity. Toes tucked under. See if you can sense you're folding through the base of your big toe as you send your bottom back towards your heels, long through the arms. So you're still resting through the arms. Yeah. If you find that you've lost all the support through your arms, there's no sense of resting through the arms, just bring your hands a bit closer towards you so you shorten the distance between your hands and your feet. And then see if you can, without changing the effort through your arms and your shoulders, take one knee and then the other knee off the floor. And then just using your leg muscles, can you come into downward facing dog? So strong work for the thighs, but you stay resting and undone through the shoulders, the chest, the ribs. Because then you have options for your shoulders, you see. That's it. So you use your legs. That's it. So you send your bottom back. You don't need to straighten your knees. They can be bent. It is first thing in the morning. Come back down the same way that you came up. So you send your bottom over your heels as you come down. You rest through the arms. And then try that once or twice more in your own time. Coming into dog pose, thinking about shifting the weight back towards your heels and then using your legs to lift the pelvis rather than pushing with your arms. Do you know if you're pushing or not? It might be that, because it requires quite a lot of work in the legs to do that. It might be that at the moment you do need to press a little bit, but then when you're in dog pose, you don't need to press with the arms anymore, with the hands. So could you see, if you don't know if you're pushing, when you're in dog pose, push the floor away. If you can't push, it means you're already pushing. So try and push a bit more and then go the other way. Head heavy. Great. And then come back down into child when you're ready. And we're going to come back onto all fours, but before we do that, just to give the wrists a little bit of a break, if you come into kneeling and bring the backs of your hands together like this, And just swing them, just to help undo. So if you swing them forwards and backwards, just to help undo the wrists. Great. And then come back onto all fours. Find that flat back again. So you're supporting the head, but not overly. You're not looking forward, you're looking down at the mat. And just shift the weight forwards and backwards a little bit, so you feel like there's more weight coming into the hands and then more weight coming into the knees. Okay. So your body is actually moving forwards and backwards. And then shift the shoulders and the pelvis to the left and then to the right. And just sensing what that feels like. And then come to a point where you're settled. It feels like the weight is pretty fairly shared between the hands and the knees and between the left and the right side. And then you're not actually going to do anything, but you're going to imagine that you want to take your left hand off the floor, but don't actually do it. Just prepare yourself. So you lighten the contact. This is what you would do in a millisecond just before you were to lift one hand. But you're sensing as you do that, what goes down if you lighten the left hand, and then lighten the right hand. And I'm hoping that you will sense a weight shift on the diagonal. So if you're lightening the left hand, you might feel more weight through the right hand and the left knee. And if you're lightening the right hand, you'll feel this diagonal weight bearing from the left hand to the right knee. If you don't feel that, that's okay. What are you feeling? Are you doing one of those things? Are you shifting the body forwards and backwards, or left and right maybe? If you don't know if you're doing that, you could do it just to get a sense of what that feels like. And then, I actually find this quite strong work, not, just preparing to lift a hand. So you might want to just stay like that, or you might think, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I'm actually going to lift my hand off the floor. Crazy on a Thursday morning. So if you are going to do that, say it was your left hand, you're going to creep the fingertips towards the left front corner of your mat, and then maybe take the hand off the floor. But you're not changing where your shoulders are above the mat. Yeah? Because if you shifted the weight over to the right, that would be very easy. If you shifted the weight into your knees, that would make it much easier. So it makes sense to do that because we want life to be easier. But we're trying to keep the shoulders and the pelvis exactly where they are, as if you had some peas balanced on your back, and they're not going to move anywhere as you take one hand away. Keep breathing. Notice what switches on as you take the hand away, and then as you bring the hand back, does all of that switch off? Allow it to. And then you can try on the other side. So you creep the right hand fingers towards the right front corner of your mat. Take the arm away. If you're not feeling any change, it probably means you've got most of the weight through your knees, which you might be doing for a reason. Maybe there's something going on with your shoulders, your wrists. If you want to feel more change, shift the weight more into your hands before you take a hand away. Good. Place that hand down. And then do the same with a leg. So remember, the tendency here might be to shift the weight back, but you're going to lighten the contact of one knee on the floor and then slowly slide. You're keeping the toes on the floor. You're not taking the toes off the floor. Slide that leg back. Try and keep the pelvis exactly where it is in space. Bring that knee back. And do the same on the other side. Nice and slow. Good. Come back to the first leg, and this time when you tuck the toes under, you are going to shift the weight. You're going to push the heel back. I do this sideways on so you can see. So you're going to slide one leg back and then push the heel back. So that will pull the body back and then push the heel forward. So the leg stays straight, but you're being pushed and pulled by what you're doing with that foot. Rolling, maybe even roll to the tips of your toes. Good. Place that knee down. Do the same on the other leg. And then the next time this leg is pulling you back, the heel's going back, keep that leg where it is and bring the other leg to join it. So you're coming into plank pose, but it's a moving plank. You're still going to be shifting the weight forwards and backwards. So your pelvis stays the same distance from the ground as you take the other leg to join it. And can you then push? That's it. Shunt your body forwards, pull the body back with the heels. Great. And then the next time you push the body forwards, could you roll right onto the top of the feet? Let the pelvis go, and lift your head. If your lower back starts to talk to you, you don't go any further than that. So good. Breathing deep. And if you are here in the back bend, drop your chin towards your chest. Notice how the rest of the body responds to that. And then on an exhalation, from between your shoulder blades, lift the head. So if you need to, or when you need to come out, you could either tuck your toes and push up into a very long dog or come into child pose. But if you're still here, you could try this little thing that I like, which is to look over one shoulder, allow the pelvis to roll away from that shoulder, so you can look over the shoulder, and then the other shoulder. So the pelvis rolls from left to right to support you in looking left and right, over one shoulder, over the other. So let the pelvis rock. So as you look over your left shoulder, the right front hip will roll towards the ground. Great. And then when you've had enough of that, you can push up and back into your dog pose, or just push back into child. And after your dog pose, come into child again. And in your child pose, find that same movement that you might have been exploring in the cobra or upward facing dog, depending on what you're doing with your legs, where you just wobble the pelvis from left to right. So you're rolling through the front ankle. That's it. Great. And then bring yourselves up into a sitting position. And I don't mind how you sit, I just want you to be comfortable. So you could sit in a chair if you want to, but I want you to feel upright. So if you're comfortable with your legs crossed, you could sit cross-legged, or maybe you like kneeling. So everyone that I can see is sitting on the floor. So I'm going to teach, assuming we're all sat on the floor. Lean forwards and rest into your hands, and you can drop your head. And then just encourage your pelvis back towards the floor, away from your thighs. Does that make sense? So you're differentiating between your thighs and your pelvis. So you're leaning forwards into your hands, and you can use your hands just to push the pelvis. So say you're like this, yeah, these are your legs. And this is your body, your pelvis is here. And you're encouraging, the legs stay behind, but you're encouraging the pelvis back. So because often what happens when we come forwards, we can, the legs can be heavy and rest into the ground. And as we come to sit upright, at some point we start to pull the thighs in towards the pelvis. So we're just seeing if we can differentiate between the legs and the pelvis. Okay, and then you can slowly walk the hands back, leaving the legs behind as much as possible. They'll probably come to a point where they do start to lift up a little, maybe, but you're just seeing if you can find a little bit more differentiation between the movement of the pelvis and the legs. And then slowly lift your head. As you exhale, really sit into your pelvis. So resist any conditioning that you've had over your life to sit up, yeah, because that brings in extension, lots of effort to sit up, not particularly helpful for a sustained sitting place. Our spine is built so that it can support us upright. We don't have to add anything else. So really sit into your pelvis. And some of you might want to stay leaning forward. That can feel quite nice. And then start to follow your breath. Soften across the face. And we're going to do a little breathing practice called square breathing, where, like a square, we break the breath down into 4 parts, and also like a square, those 4 parts are the same length, equal in length. So there's the inhalation, and then we add a pause at the top of the inhalation. We exhale, and then we add a pause at the end of the exhale. So I'm going to lead this and count to 4. If you find that if you're following me, you feel short of breath or somehow restricted, you want to be longer or you want to breathe quicker, just ignore me and do your own pace, your own length. Let's all take a deep breath in, sigh the breath out. And then we're going to start to breathe in slowly to the count of 4. 2, 3, 4. Hover at the top. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 4. 2, 3, 4. And pause at the bottom. 2, 3, 4. Breathing in. Pause. Exhale. Rest at the end of the exhalation. Again, breathing in for 4. Hover at the top of the breath. Exhale for 4. And then rest with the body empty of air. 2 more cycles, breathing in. Pause. Stay soft in those pauses. Exhale slowly, smoothly. Rest empty of air. Last cycle, breathing in for 4. Hover. Exhale for 4. And then pause at the end of the out-breath. And when you do take your next inhalation, really enjoy that inhalation when it comes. Unrestricted, unrestrained. Sigh the breath out. And then we've got 5 minutes left, so you can either carry on sitting if you want to, following your breath, or if you'd like to lie down, you could lie down. Whether you're sitting or you're lying, as you exhale, see if you can find more support from the ground beneath you. And try less hard with your breathing. Soft across your excuse me, soft across your forehead, around your eyes, between your brows, your cheeks, jaw. Can your breastbone respond easily to your breath? So the breath moves into the soft places of the body. So the less that you're doing actively, the more freedom there is for the breath. And just sensing the sensation of breathing with kind intrigue. This brilliant body. Take your attention now to the edges of your body and maybe even the space around your body, so that as you're breathing in and out, you're changing the shape you're taking up in the room. And can you make your awareness so broad you can actually be aware of the space 2 or 3 inches outside your body, expanding your awareness. So as you've probably all experienced, when we've got something going on, or our tendency, it's a very useful tendency when we need to concentrate on something, is to hone in. You know, our awareness becomes smaller on one thing or one part of the body or one person. And actually that's our tendency. But to have, to expand our awareness is really helpful in terms of unhooking. just to keep that physical sense of space and also beyond the body, sense of space beyond the body. So making a conscious effort to feel not just our whole body, but the space around it as well. Soft around your lips, and the corners of your eyes and the corners of your mouth. So you're in your own space. You could sit or lie for as long as you want to. I'm going to end the class there. Really enjoyed Zooming with you this morning. Thanks very much. Hope that was helpful. Stop the recording there. So if you want to say goodbye, you'll need to